Mailbag Tuesday is here. We've got draft lottery news finally. And yep, we're going to talk a lot about the empty Blackhawks coaching job. All of it coming up next on CHGO Blackhawks. Happy Tuesday. Welcome into the CHGO Blackhawks podcast on this Mailbag Tuesday. I'm Jay Zawaski. That's Mario Tirabassi. Steven's here running the show. It's old school time. Maybe we'll do a tank spin for old time's sake at the end of the show. If we get to 200 likes, that's the rule. So start hitting that like button. Make sure you are subscribed to our YouTube page as well. If you're listening on the good old fashioned podcast, we love you and thank you. Make sure you're following us on your favorite app and leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and or Spotify. We would appreciate that greatly. And again, thanks for being here. We should start with a little bit of news. We've got a date. Not you. Don't have a date. I'm not against. I'll try anything once, but
we'll be in the same place at the same time.
Yeah, we have a date for the draft lottery.
Yeah, they was going to be May 5th or 6th. It looks like it is going to be the night of May 5th. So that is a Monday night, Cinco de Mayo. So maybe we'll have some tacos and
Lana Del Rey tacos coming through.
That'd be really good. Actually, that's a great idea we just thought of.
I like that. Good job. It's our date.
And so, yeah, draft lottery, same odds for the Blackhawks as last year, with I believe it's 13.5% to move up. So it's coming up. We're going to dive into some more draft talk as the lottery approaches, and especially after the lottery, we'll know where the Hawks are going to be. We can find out who's going to be the best available. We'll reach out to our draft analyst friends and have them on, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So, yeah, May 5th, we will be live during the lottery, and we'll sweat it out.
Let's just do this now. If the NHL draft riggers are listening, and we know they are, just give the Hawks number 2. Don't need number 1. Happy to pass it on to San Jose or whoever needs it. It'll probably be the Penguins or Bruins or something. And then just give Chicago number 2, and everyone's happy.
Is that even possible?
Anything's possible when you rig the draft.
If someone jumps up to win it, isn't it just that? Wasn't it just that team wins it and then everyone falls behind? I thought they got rid of these are the top 3 teams.
Well, then so when Columbus was revealed, everything, when the Hawks won the Bedard lottery, that just means that no one moved, right?
When the Hawks won the Bedard lottery, they went from 3 to 1, and then I think everyone fell in line behind them.
Okay. Yeah, that's right.
But I think they got rid of the.
Well, then yeah, that's fine.
They got rid of because when they went up to 3, and got Kirby Dach, that they went from 10 to 3, which I think they got rid of that system where you could just jump into the top 3 and then the top 3 gets jumbled up.
All right, well then just keep it the way it is.
Yeah,
just keep everything in order. I'm down with that.
That's what happened last year. It was chalk.
Yeah, and chalk is good.
And the Sharks got Celebrini and Blackhawks got Levshinov, and everyone was happy after that. Everyone. It was totally fine.
I think everyone was totally content with that Levshinov pick.
Really grateful for how it went. Yeah, I mean, looking at the lottery odds, you got Sharks number 1 again. They can win it back-to-back years and still be able to win it 2 more times in a 5-year span, because that rule that they implemented was you can only win the lottery by position improvement 2 years in a 5-year span. So the Blackhawks did that to get Bedard, so they have 1 more that they could do. But the Sharks, since it was chalk last year, they won it last year, but they didn't improve their standing, so they still could do it. They could win again, and they still have those 2. to use. So it's going to be very interesting. I know we have I think it's a diehard question about the perfect spot for the Blackhawks to land. I still think you go into it saying you want number one. You want to be able to pick anybody possible, and then you leave it up to your evaluation. I think that's still the best outcome. It is interesting though, as you might see some people on social media or what's up, shirtless dark guy? Officially summer.
Oh, he's back.
He's out. He's shirtless.
There he is.
As I forgot my point now. If the Hawks were to win it this year, a lot of people in the chat have mentioned, a lot of people on social media have mentioned, a lot of people have had their eyes on Gavin McKenna. If the Hawks win it this year,
you can't get him.
You won't be in the running for Gavin McKenna next year. So we'll see. You can't think ahead that far and say, well, you definitely want to not win it this year because who knows what Schaefer and Misa might end up being.
And stuff changes around the draft. I mean, just remember, like Demidov really started. That name really started ramping up like after the draft lottery. Mm-hmm. Didn't it seem like that really started flying up the list late?
That was a late bloomer. Remember the 2022 draft. Shane Wright for 2 years was like, yep, he's going to be the number one guy. And then he started falling down, and Slafkovsky got a late push as being one of the top guys. So, yeah, I mean, you never know how teams are going to evaluate it, how people are going to, see these players pan out. But I think if you're looking at it for the Hawks, you still want them. You still want to win it. You still want to be able to say we have the opportunity to get the best player available.
Because you never know when someone's going to do something weird.
Obviously, it's been a while since I've been with you guys here. Yeah. Isn't the hope that the Blackhawks just get so much better in this offseason that we don't have to worry about the lottery anymore?
Yes.
Or are we just stuck in this for another couple of years? Is there hope for me?
For you?
For me specifically. I just want to be happy, Jay.
Well, you're the Bears producer. They're going at least, 11 wins?
8, 9.
8?
Have you seen that schedule?
I'm going over on that one.
Ooh,
the schedule doesn't matter.
He's underselling it.
Because teams suck out of the blue and teams are good out of the blue in the NFL.
No, I would say
that's the hope.
I would love for them to not have a realistic shot at Gavin McKenna, because it means you have taken that step forward in the rebuild to where the guys that are here now, the young guys that are going to have the opportunity to play a lot next year, as it seems, they're getting to that point where, they're going to be the ones to push the team forward. And yeah, you add a couple free agents, make a couple trades, whatever it ends up being this offseason. And it puts a legitimate NHL team that on a nightly basis has a shot to beat anybody in the league.
I have this weird, since David Carl didn't choose the Hawks, I'm also going through the emotions of they're also not going to get anyone in free agency or trades. And this is lining up to be a bad offseason. This is my anxiety. Don't be like me. All right. That one thing has nothing to do with the other. They don't influence each other.
The pessimism is
so
growing.
Let's be positive.
Yeah.
Help me be positive. But I was so ready for David Carl, and a lot of people were.
Yeah.
And then when it didn't happen, it feels like even though the Hawks have not been good, it feels like they got Bedard, and then they got some decent free agents last year. It didn't work out, but they got them. So it feels like even though they haven't been succeeding on the ice, the things they want, they tend to get. And this is the first time that didn't happen where they didn't get David Carl. It's like, what? No.
Yeah, it did feel very strong that things were lining up. But I'm not going to let that sink my feelings.
They're not related.
Unless he becomes the head coach anywhere else in the NHL.
Oh, then I'll be furious.
Then I'll be I'll be irrationally upset.
Yes.
That'll be the point where you're just like, then you start to really look and be like, okay, what is actually going on here?
And then David Carl becomes public enemy number 1.
Oh yeah, then everyone hates him.
Yeah.
Sure.
All right, let's get to a mailbag question here before we hit the first break zone of the day. Yeah, you're gonna have to zoom
Yeah,
in on
I
that.
got you.
Long one. This is a perfect one to go right before the break.
Yeah.
It is a 3-paragraph.
We'll answer it on the other side.
I will. I'll read it for you guys. This one from Nate O 161. I was watching Battle of Florida. John Cooper challenged an offside that was a full minute and 2 failed clearing attempts prior to goal, and goal was overturned and the game was set back an entire minute. I understand getting the calls right, but I hate when coaches use the challenge as a get out of jail free card. I would challenge the challenge system so that the NHL had replay assists with those officials able to stop play and make calls, and give coaches a buzzer that would signal the refs they wanted to challenge. The coach would have 30 seconds from the time of the infraction to signal challenge. What would you do to fix the broken NHL challenge system?
I don't hate that.
Isn't there something in football that has something like that, right? Where maybe it might just be on scoring plays or something like that, where it's...
Well, they just review every scoring play.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But that's different, though, because every football play is like an incident on its own.
Right.
So there's time between all of them.
Yeah.
I would say,
you're not
so here's my
challenging
thing, and I
something in the
know
moment.
Greg tweeted about this today, too. Greg Boyson, read his work at, Chicago Hockey Now. If it's an offside challenge, if the other team has possessed the puck,
Yeah.
the challenge is gone. Right? Like
The offside should be
challenge
wiped.
should be wiped.
Yeah.
Because it's one thing to say, okay, it was a 2-on-1. These guys crossed line and scored,
Mm-hmm.
but we thought this guy was offside. Review it. I get that. Fine. But if the guy is a whisker offside, and then a minute goes by of possession, repossession, repossession,
Mm-hmm.
the offside is no longer...
If they don't,
it no longer
if they don't
influences
clear
the goal.
If they don't clear the zone, yeah, but they have the puck. It's like a delayed penalty.
I think as soon as the defending team touches the puck, the offside challenge is gone.
Yeah, I think
that prevents a problem like what you saw with Cooper.
Yeah, I would that would be my top way of doing it. My other thing would be is if from the potential infraction 30 seconds go by, like they're saying, then that's it. You had 30 seconds to do something with your quote unquote advantage. And if you didn't, then play goes on and nothing happens.
I'm still sort of the mind of if an offside play has to be reviewed, the fact that it was offside probably didn't make that big of a difference in the long run in the outcome of the play. I get wanting to be right. The technology exists to be right. So fine, let's meet in the middle here. And like you said, either set a time limit on how much time can go by before a challenge, or find some way to immediately challenge it mid-play. Maybe it is a buzzer. Maybe it's a from the whatever it might be.
The horn, yeah.
But I also don't love stopping a play in full stride. I feel like that could be risky, but I guess it happens all the time on delayed penalties and stuff like that.
Right,
so,
yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I just think what happened...
the situation
that should not. That's
rewinding
ridiculous.
a full minute, like
that's out of the context.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that, but I am a proponent of using replay to get things right. But I agree there is only so far that should go, because then you're getting completely out of the realm of like the flow of the game and everything like that.
Yeah.
And there should also be a time limit on reviews. If you can't figure something out with the multiple angles you have,
they call
the back and forth, pace of the replay and everything like that. If it takes more than 2 minutes, then that's inconclusive.
Yeah.
Can't change the call from there.
All right, should we break zone before? Let's do that. All right, do us a favor. Make sure you hit that like button for us. We have 44 likes. What's that? That's not going to get us a tank spin. 200 likes and we get a tank spin. So get to work. It's up to you, not me, not Mario, not Steven, not Jake, not Emma, not Katie over there. It's up to you to get those likes in if you want a tank spin at the end of the show. So hit that like button. Back with more in a moment on a CHGO Blackhawks podcast presented by Bet365. And the Chicago Cubs are headed to Milwaukee, and you could be too. Kick off your summer right with the CHGO Cubs crew. Cody, Luke, and Corey are taking the party north for a border battle with the Milwaukee Brewers. It's all going down this Saturday at Potawatomi Casino and Hotel in Milwaukee. Get your ticket. You get an exclusive pregame party in a private room at the casino, a live CHGO Cubs show, buffet lunch, and a drink ticket to get the good times rolling. Plus, if you're 21 or over, you get $100 in casino play with Potawatomi Rewards Card. With a Potawatomi Rewards Card, you can also add on a game ticket and sit with the crew in the lower outfield Cubs side, of course, and make it a weekend. Add a one-night hotel stay at Potawatomi for Saturday night. Tickets and all info at allchgo.com/event. These will go fast. Don't sleep on it. Join the Cubs, CHGO Cubs gang out there in Milwaukee on Saturday, May 3rd. Should be an awesome time.
And if you've ever tried to buy a home, get a loan, or just deal with money stuff in general, you know that it can be a lot. That's why we want to tell you about the Rate app. It is a game changer. You can get pre-approved for a mortgage in minutes without the need to jump through a million hoops. And if you're thinking about a home equity loan or a personal loan, you can secure one in under 15 days. That's a very fast timeline. The Rate app also helps you find the best homeowners and auto insurance based on what you actually need. And the thing is powered by AI, so it's smart and saves you time. That is something that is an unexpected bonus. They also have 800 free wellness videos, stuff like meditation, breathing exercises, stretching, basic tools to help you feel better both mentally and physically, because the loan process for home loans or any other kind of loans can be stressful. So through the app that you are using to get approved for those loans, get approved for those, you're trying to buy a house, that same app is going to let you, when you're done with that process, breathe and stretch and meditate and just feel a lot better about getting yourself approved. So if you're stressed out about a loan or mortgage, the Rate app lets you handle it all at one time. It's got you covered with those wellness videos and all of the ways that it can help you save money. All in one app helps you both your wallet and your well-being. Download the Rate app today and get started.
All right, back to the mailbag we go. Steven, what's next?
We got this one from Edward. Like Jay, I am flummoxed by the news that David Carl has turned down the Blackhawks head coaching job. I haven't heard anyone mention Washington Capitals assistant Mitch Love as a candidate anywhere. His resume is pretty impressive. Why isn't Mitch Love getting any consideration?
I think because of his proximity to the Beach Boy Mike Love, who everyone hates. So that's why I don't want him. Yeah. Look, man, I'm open to anything now. With it unlikely being David Carl, or we know it's not David Carl, and it's unlikely going to be Mike Sullivan. Mm-hmm. Fine, talk to everybody. So I'm looking at I can't call him. I almost called him Mike Love. Mitch Love. 2 years as a Capitals assistant, head coach of the Calgary Wranglers and the Stockton Heat in the AHL back-to-back years.
So that's the Calgary.
Yeah, the Calgary.
Calgary affiliate just changed locations.
3 years with the Saskatoon Blades in the WHL, and then 6 years as an assistant on the Everett Silvertips in the WHL. So not a ton of non-junior experience, but the Caps have been good the last 2 years. At this point, if you know it's a no from Mike Sullivan, cast a wide net. Mm-hmm. Yes, sure. If you are an assistant involved with a winning team or a longtime assistant who's worked with winning coaches, I want to hear from you 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the Elliot Friedman was talking about, NHL teams having their short lists and their long lists. And I would imagine, the Blackhawks' long list of candidates is wider than we've, even thought of what it could be. Charlie Roumeliotis came out with 15 candidates that was
a big list, yes.
That could be head coaches. On allchgo.com, I put up 5 names that seem like really good fits. So you can check that out as well. I'm completely open to the consideration of anybody, especially from teams that have had a lot of success. You talk about the coaching tree aspect. A guy that I mentioned in that written article and that I've now dug my heels in since yesterday. Jeff Halpern of the Tampa Bay Lightning. He's been an assistant coach with them for I think the past 7 seasons. He was an assistant coach of the Syracuse Crunch with them before. He's from that Stanley Cup, back-to-back Stanley Cup run that the Lightning had. He's been a coach under John Cooper for now 10 years within that organization. Almost 1,000 games as an NHL player. I just think like if you're looking at, we want experience, we don't want to retread, and you want guys that like been in those situations, those winning environments. I'm all for, a guy like Mitch Love, a guy like Jeff Halpern, going for those candidates that look like they're ready for that next step. And I know it's like, first time coach. It's like, it's a little different when you have this long resume of experience being in either the AHL or the NHL, or you've been in those big time organizations.
My only concern is that there's a lot of talk about like, will the players respect this coach? And look, I think that that's crappy. We even have to have that talk. Like, that's your freaking coach. So yes, respect him.
Yeah, right.
But that's the, Gen Xer in me, I guess. So I need to be real and say, the young players maybe need to be convinced that a coach is good before they just simply believe it.
Do you think that stems from, even just locally, the stories of Mark Trestman and Jeremy Colleton in this town, of like, here's some guy coming in from not necessarily the long pedigree of NFL coaching or NHL coaching. Colleton was younger than some of the guys on that team.
Yeah.
And it was just like, what is this guy going to tell me? Or how is this guy's personality going to mesh with this group? And it was flubs from there.
I think that somebody like Jeremy Colleton would make a lot more sense now. I'm not saying him.
Now that he's had more experience.
The problem I think the biggest problem with Colleton was you brought him in to a team full of Cup champions and Hall of Famers.
Mm-hmm.
And what is he going to tell them? Like, they needed a guy like Quenneville, and if you're going to replace Quenneville, it had to be someone on, not that there's a lot of guys on Quenneville's level at that time, but at least a veteran coach. That, you can't bring in a 34-year-old to be your head coach when your best defenseman is 36.
Right.
That's a tough pill to swallow, man.
Mm-hmm.
Jake, how old are you? Jake's 6 years younger than me, and I have no respect for him. No, I'm just kidding. but it's, you know what I mean? Like, from a hockey perspective, it's hard for guys of that tier to be like, who's this?
Right.
And then coming in here and telling us we're doing everything wrong. Like, what does he know? This guy sucked. I played against him. He was horrible. Like, that was just bad timing. I do think Jeremy Colleton eventually is going to get a head coaching job in the NHL. Not here, ever.
He's an assistant in New Jersey, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen here, but that hire now could have maybe worked because it's a young-minded coach with a team that he can mold.
If he did not have any time with the Blackhawks, but still had the coaching resume he does, where he was like success overseas, came to North America, good track record in the AHL, went to the NHL, didn't work out, went back to the AHL, NHL assistant, then you'd be like, put him on the long list.
Right.
That's fine.
Sure.
Yeah, but just because he's been here, he's not coming back.
No, but I to my point, I think it's, if that is a reality and you've got to bring in a guy you think they're going to instantly respect, I think it has to have a little bit of name recognition.
Sure.
And I don't know if Mitch Love has that. I don't know. I'm not saying I don't know because I disagree. I truly don't know. I don't know how players would feel about that.
Yeah.
Someone in the chat said, who is the moron who brought up Trent Yawney yesterday? That was me as a good candidate. Thanks, Pip Hastings Aviation. Says that is like the worst suggestion ever, short of bringing Alpo Suhonen. I challenge you, Pip Hastings Aviation, to land your plane and then go on Hockey Reference and go look at the rosters that Trent Yawney had to coach in Chicago. And then remember that Dennis Savard tried with a much better team and also failed and was fired. So, go look at that team and then look at Trent Yawney's resume from then on. He has been an NHL assistant in good programs forever. And if you don't believe me, ask Duncan Keith, ask Patrick Kane, ask Brent Seabrook what they thought of Trent Yawney as a head coach, and you'll get an answer. So, I'm not saying he's the guy, but I feel more comfortable with someone like that, a long-time assistant with maybe a sprinkle of NHL experience. But I think someone like that is going to come in and command a little more than someone that they can almost look at as a peer. I just don't think it's time for that yet. And I think the Hawks feel the same way because I think they had that a little bit. Even though Luke was of that generation, he was kind of the fatherly figure more than the disciplinarian. Sorensen's kind of that way too. And I spoke to a source a couple weeks ago, and they said they want someone who's a little more of a hard ass. So I don't think you're going to get that kind of soft touch on this hire.
Okay.
We'll see.
Next.
Yep.
This one from Warm Bedards. To keep the whole coaching theme above, if Dallas were to get eliminated in the next couple of games and Pete DeBoer is relieved of coaching duties, rumblings I've seen on social media if this happens, would he be of interest to the Hawks?
Well, the Stars have the advantage. So if he moves on, probably not.
Yeah.
But that means Jared Bednar might be fired.
I'm like either of those guys. Come on down.
Yeah, I mean, guys that have had success, I'm all for it, and those don't necessarily feel like retreads because of the time that they've had with the organizations that they've had, the success levels that they've had. I'm all for it. It seems like and then you talk about like someone that you respect. Those guys would be able to carry that in from day one, no problem.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm all for it.
Yeah,
there is going to be a team that is eliminated in the first round that will fire their coach. You can, yeah,
yep,
put a shiny penny on it.
Ooh,
one more.
Yeah,
we got time for one more. Einstein 217 says I just realized I put Monday on all of these.
That's all right.
Whatever.
It's Monday in
spirit.
Of course
I have it, yeah. Einstein 217 says, with Cooper staying at Tampa, what about his assistant Blashill? In the vein of Yawney, does John Madden get some consideration, or maybe Pekka? And if Carl is out, how about Ferschweiler from Western Michigan?
So that was a lot of names.
John Madden did a great job with the Raiders.
He sure did. Got a whole video game out of it. Jeff Blashill, sure, long list him. That's fine. That's a guy that took over a situation in Detroit
after Babcock
that was kind of on the similar timeline that the Blackhawks are on with as far as quote unquote rebuild goes. But then when given the opportunity the first time the Red Wings were coming out of their rebuild, wasn't the guy to get him over the hump. So,
and correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't he kind of the big hot candidate too? Like at the time, wasn't he like supposed to be the next big thing in coaching?
I think there was a lot of heat behind him for sure. But I that feels like that kind of feels like you're giving a guy an opportunity to be a head coach again. But he doesn't seem like a guy that you're going into like, let's get back on the upswing with him.
Right.
And I feel like I don't want to have Kyle Davidson have to hire a third coach, because I want the guy that the candidate that they're going to bring in and get this team over the next two humps. I want to get them to the next stage through the rebuild and then out of the rebuild, and be that coach that can get them competitive into the postseason. I don't want to do a 2-year bridge coach who, it might be like in a Savard situation. I know there's someone asked a question about like who's a former player that they can get to be a coach, like Montreal did with Martin St. Louis. It's just like that ended up working out, but just because a former player wants to be a coach doesn't mean because they're a former player they're going to be a really good coach. Yeah. Dennis Savard was a phenomenal player. and got into the coaching experience and could only take the Blackhawks so far. That's why they went and got Joel Quenneville to be a coaching advisor, and then was basically the head coach in waiting.
Yeah. All right, let's hit the break zone. Back with more in a moment on CHGO Blackhawks, powered by Bet365. And just like your favorite team needs a home ice advantage, your home needs a home floor advantage. At Empire Today, they can help you get it. Empire Today has flooring experts. That's in all caps, mister. Dedicated flooring professionals who focus on flooring every single day. You've walked through those big box stores, right? And they've got a flooring section. They've got a toilet plunger section and lighting and everything. And chances are the guy you talk to in flooring today, and you're going to trust this major investment to the guy who was working in toilet plungers yesterday. No, you need an expert. This is a major investment. This is a major commitment.
Jesus.
You need to talk to the experts, and that's what you get. That's why Empire Today is your best bet for a new floor. Empire Today lives and breathes flooring. They're with you every step of the way. You could pick the right flooring and colors for your space. See how it looks with your furniture in your house. They bring the showroom right to your home. Schedule a free in-home estimate today, because some things are just better at home. CHGO listeners can receive a $350 discount when using promo code CHGO. Yes, you heard right. A $350 discount with code CHGO. Restrictions apply. Visit EmpireToday/CHGO for full details.
On the other side of me telling the good people about Circa Sports Illinois, we have breaking news.
Uh-oh.
So, whatever the sport, the app to bet is Circa Sports Illinois. Circa Sports, it's sports betting the way it should be. Circa Sports Illinois has high betting limits, low holds, and exceptional customer service. You can bet on all your favorite teams in every game this season, whether it's spreads, props, futures, or in-game. Circa Sports has it. Fund and bet like a pro from anywhere, anytime in Illinois. So download your new bookie today at circasports.com. You must be 21 or older, and if you or someone you know has a gambling problem, you can call 1-800-GAMBLER. According to Elliot Friedman,
Yes.
there is word
Yes.
that Rick Tocchet will not be returning as head coach of the Vancouver Canucks. Believe there will be a full statement with his rationale in the next little while, but add Vancouver to the teams looking for a new bench boss.
Interesting. So it sounds like that's a Tocchet decision based on that phrasing.
Yeah, because when Jim Rutherford and Patrick Alvin were having their end of media circus,
That went well.
that was they said that they were going to welcome Tocchet back, and then he had the option to come back or not. So it looks as if Rick Tocchet said, I don't want to be in Vancouver anymore, a team that I was brought in to lead to the postseason and had all this talent, and I don't want to be here anymore. Interesting.
Let's pretend he's not going to Philly and have the thought exercise here on the show, because he's definitely going to Philly. That's a guy I would put on my list, on my short list, but I'm very concerned with how things happened in Vancouver last year. That was a toxic environment.
Now, is that on the head coach or is that on the player?
Here's the thing.
The player mix.
The thing Rick Tocchet is sold on is old school, no nonsense, tough guy.
Mm-hmm.
If that guy can't get control of the room, that's a problem. So, yes, maybe it is a personnel thing. Maybe it is the personality of the players in the room that were just so out of control. But it wasn't like that the year before. Everything was going fine then. Then, like, what happened that Rick Tocchet and his crew completely lost control of the Canucks locker room? So much so that you trade JT Miller, who goes on to become JT Miller again with the Rangers.
Right.
Elias Pettersson has the worst year of his career and is being talked about being sold pennies on the dollar at this point. That's a red flag for me. If that's the hire the Hawks make, I get it. I understand it. It checks a lot of the boxes we want to check. But that is in the back of my head significantly, that the way things played out in Vancouver this year was troublesome.
He feels similar to Mike Sullivan in that he's probably going to want to go to the team closest to being good again fastest. And it doesn't I wouldn't say the Blackhawks are that team that is looking for a head coach.
That would be the Rangers or Bruins, probably.
Most likely.
Yeah.
So,
or Vancouver now.
Well, I don't think he's going to go to
No,
Vancouver.
I don't think so.
That's why we're talking about him. I would have him on the long list because I just don't, for the same reasons you said, like I just don't feel like that is the guy I want to come in and take over the young team. So, yeah, I mean, it's another name that's out there, feels retread-ish, but just doesn't seem like it's the right fit.
I just feel like, and I was going to say this before the break, at this point, we're just kind of like, yeah, all right, yeah, sure, that checks the boxes. Yeah, okay, fine. I talked to him too. There's nothing that's really blowing me away here.
I think,
aside from Sullivan.
Yeah.
And I'm not advocating for this, but at this point, is the devil you know better than the devil you don't? And just bring in Sorenson, see what he can do, give him a full year to get the team. Everyone talked about at the end of the year how he came into an awful situation, had to kind of change the system on the fly, but it started getting better results. The young players look good. They developed. I don't know. Why is Anders Sorensen worse than some college coach that has never coached in the NHL or some lifelong assistant? I just don't know. I know there were a lot of nights we were frustrated with Sorensen, but I feel like maybe with a whole offseason to prepare and the younger talent that he knows so well from his time in Rockford, he might be able to have a better year than last. I just look at the way they finished the year this year. There's evidence there.
Yeah. I think part of it with regards to, trying to figure out the right coaches, we don't exactly know what this team is going to be like next year. I think there's a lot of unknowns because you have these young guys that are going to be coming in. I think we know the trajectory that Frank Nazar is going on. You obviously, Connor Bedard and where he's at and where he wants to get to. But then you throw in guys like Sam Renzel. What's he going to be in a full professional season? What's Oliver Moore going to be? Where does Aiden Thompson fit in? Colton Dock, when he's healthy, where does he go? What are they going to do? Off season moves. You'd think they're going to be active and try and get some significant players to come in here. So you have to have a coach before you go to free agency.
Yeah.
You have to. But it's still kind of, it just kind of feels like what is going to be the right fit is hard to pin down because you don't know exactly what the team is going to be. The identity that Davidson is trying to put together with the group of young players that he's drafted that have reached the NHL, like you want fast, hard-nosed stuff. But I think trying to find the right guy to, like I was saying before, like not just be like, okay, just develop these kids and then in 2 years we're going to hire a new coach, but be a person who is going to be like, to do that, yes, do that, but also be able to go beyond that. Be the guy or be the coach that's able to get the most out of those young players, get them to reach their potentials, and also be able to coach in high pressure situations where you're coaching games in March and April and hopefully May and all that, where you have the ability to handle that, where it's not just a, like I said, like a bridge coach. And with Anders, it just feels like it just feels like there's options out there that would be improvements. And it just feels like if you have the interim tag lifted from him, you're just waiting to hire a new coach.
Yeah,
in 2 years.
I think part of the reason I'm saying this, though, is because it kind of feels like that anyway. Because I feel like it's not going to be Sullivan. We know it's not going to be Carl. And now it's, all right, throw out random candidate number 15 on
take the
Charlie's list.
Take the interim tag off, wait out 1 year, and then John Cooper will be on an expiring deal again.
and I mentioned it yesterday. It's what the Blues did. is they kept Bannister. They took the interim tag off, and as soon as Jim Montgomery became available, they're like, great, thanks for your time.
Yeah.
Now Jim Montgomery's our coach, and things have worked out pretty well for them since they've done that. Like, I don't know. And again, I'm not saying that I'm stumping for Sorenson. Of course not. But I feel like we're all just kind of throwing, hey, I Googled this guy and his name came up as a guy with experience as an assistant and he coached under this great coach. Like, okay, sure. Like, I just don't know who it's going to be. And I do have faith in Kyle Davidson and his staff. The things that they have been able to accomplish so far, they've pretty much delivered on.
Mm-hmm.
The prospects are developing well. They're performing. A lot of them gotten NHL looks and look good. The ones that haven't are progressing as you'd expect or better. But are they going to be able to find that needle in a haystack, that John Cooper, that Spencer Carberry, and say, this is the guy? Because I feel like that guy is David Carl.
Could be.
So
could have.
I don't know. And I don't work in hockey operations. I don't have the network that these guys have. So they obviously know more than I do or either of us do. But it just feels like right now we're in this cycle of, how about this guy? How about all right, sure. Why not? I don't know. The players the players that matter, let's put that important caveat on it, seem to be fine with Sorenson. I don't know. Maybe I'm saying, and look, we're talking through this together, right? We're all kind of in real time processing this whole thing. Like, maybe I'm just going to say, if they do decide to keep Sorenson, I'm just going to say, okay, fine. I'm not stumping for it, but it's not going to outrage me like it maybe would have a week ago or 2 weeks ago.
I feel like staying with Sorenson feels like a missed opportunity. But, c'est la vie. Next. I know that. Wait, can you go back to that question? Because there was like 18 parts to it. Did we hit all 18 parts, basically?
Yeah, there were some other.
Did you delete it?
I deleted it.
That's fine. Okay.
I could find.
I'm sure we hit most of the parts of that question.
I mean, here, one of the names on this was in this question actually from Aziz R.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about someone such as Pat Ferschweiler as the next head coach? He just won NCAA championship, has gotten multiple Coach of the Year awards at NCAA and CHC. In only 4 seasons, was with the Red Wings, both with their AHL affiliate and with the NHL club as an assistant coach. He seems to also be a culture guy. Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, the big thing with a guy like Carl, and I think someone mentioned the coach at BU, Jay Pandolfo. We talked a little bit about him yesterday.
That was Josh,
Yeah, and Western Michigan just won a national championship. I think the thing with the college coaches is there's two parts of this that I'm going to say. One, the youth of the Blackhawks moving forward. I think if you take someone from that environment, in college, that has succeeded at the highest levels, and you bring them to this team, it feels like that would translate of connecting to what that culture of that room could be like. And that's what Nick Foligno was talking about at the end of the season media availability, was how the young guys are going to be past this team, and they have already started to kind of take grasp of being that next wave and being those guys to be in control of the room and everything. The other thing on the other side of it, though, with those college coaches is you really have to offer them one, security, and two, money, because they have an opportunity to have a really nice, cushy setup in college, where if you have a program like Denver, like BU, like Western Michigan has become in the last few seasons, Minnesota, like these blue blood programs in college, where you just churn out, like if you're a good recruiter, you're just going to churn out NHL quality prospects year over year, and you're always going to be competitive. You can always have success and always have a job so long as you're a good enough coach. And those guys are at those levels. So with the short life expectancy of an NHL coach, which we talked about yesterday, if you missed the show, 2.4 years is the average length of a head coach in the NHL. How enticing is that to a guy who's coaching at college right now and is just like, well, I could be here for the next 15 years and my family's comfortable and I'm comfortable and I'm making nice money, or I could take a chance, but most likely in 2 to 3 years, I'm looking for another job, or I might have to move my family again. Like, I think with college coaches, you really have to be certain that they're the guys. And it felt like Carl was in that situation. Yeah. But again, it came down to, I would imagine, where he's set up with his family, young career in Denver. He's got a long timeline that he could take to be successful at Denver. Maybe never leaves, or it might be 5, 7, 10 years from now, he's back on the, like, okay, I want to scratch the NHL itch.
I was talking about this before the show with Adam Hogue from CHGO Bears. You may have heard of it. And we were talking about David Carl, and the name of Pat Fitzgerald came up. And if you leave the controversy out of it,
sure,
Pat Fitzgerald was the college football version of David Carl, where NFL teams came. Mm-hmm. The Green Bay Packers wanted to hire Pat Fitzgerald before they hired Matt LaFleur, and Fitz was like, you know what? I'm good.
Right.
I make a lot of money here. I live on the North Shore. My kids are going to go to school.
They're
free
never
here.
going to fire me.
I will be this coach until I don't want to be anymore, until I do something stupid. And they have to fire me.
And then,
but like free tuition for his children, probably free employment, not free employment, but employment at the university if they so choose upon graduation. If you're a Fitzgerald in Evanston, you're set, just as if you're a Carl in Denver, you're going to be set.
Right.
And there is a lot of value to that.
Oh,
Do you know someone who stuck around in a low-paying job for way too long simply because it was secure? There's value to security.
We're pointing at Jay.
There is value to security.
For those listeners.
Like,
yeah,
to
absolutely.
say, like, hey, look, I know I could probably make more money elsewhere, but I also know that I'll have a job at this place as long as I want it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a big financial value to that, and a mental health value to that. And look, like if I'm David Carl, do I want a 2.4 year roll of the dice that is very dependent on prospects panning out?
Right.
Or do I want to just sit here and be the king and then cherry pick my NHL opportunity when it's perfect for me, when maybe my kids are a little older, or maybe it's 10 years from now. Right. And he's still successful at Denver, which he should be.
Probably.
And then his kids are older. They're in high school, whatever it might be. And he's like, all right, I'm ready for this. I'm ready for this opportunity now. And this perfect job is opened up for me. I completely understand that. And if I was in his shoes, I'd probably do the same thing.
Yeah.
Want to get a couple more in?
Next.
This one from Secret.
What is with all the multi-part
Very well
questions?
Organized, though, I will say.
Yeah, this is good.
Nice indentations, paragraphs.
I bet this is a current college student.
Good morning. I have multiple questions with regards to the same subject of unsigned college free agents. With Dominic James, since he remains unsigned and will be a free agent this summer, is there still a chance he signs with the Blackhawks, or is the team not part of his future plans? How about we answer that? We'll come back to the other two.
His rights expire in August 15th, I believe it is. Yeah, he could have gotten approached by Kyle Davidson with a similar contract opportunity that Aiden Thompson got, where it was you can sign your deal, it'll kick in next year, it'll be a shorter deal because James is a little bit older than a guy like Ryan Green coming in.
Right.
So there's a chance, you could come back with a different opportunity with the Blackhawks, a different contract. But I think at this stage of the game, it's probably likely he sees the prospect group, kind of sees his path to the NHL, and it might be really difficult to make it in Chicago, and he's maybe going to try and find an opportunity elsewhere. I mean, I wouldn't blame a guy saying, do I want to try and crack Chicago's roster, or maybe a team like Florida comes and says, you want to be, an AHL guy on the cusp of getting into the NHL? That might be a better opportunity than you're going to go to Rockford and we're going to be in a rebuild.
Yeah.
I'm not going to blame guys in that situation for we just had the NFL draft, and you look at some of these players that get drafted late in like the last few picks of the 7th round. And it's like, cool, you got drafted. That's really cool. That's a great accomplishment. You got drafted. But you talk to some guys that have been undrafted free agents, and it's just like, well, as soon as the draft was over and I was still available, I had 10 calls from all these teams saying, we want you to come to our team. And you're like, wow, I didn't get drafted, but now I can pick where I go.
Pick where I want to go.
Like, check
out the depth chart. Check out the
there's some value to that.
Yep.
So if that's the case for him, I'm not gonna hold it against him. Part 2.
All right, part 2 here, guys. What are the chances that Tampa Bay Lightning prospect and Hobey Baker Award winner Isaac Howard hits free agency next summer?
That's an interesting one.
That's a very
it's been
interesting
talked about
one.
a lot.
He should be playing right now. Like he's that good, but he's in an organization that is win now and stacked. So
someone you could potentially trade for at the draft.
You could trade for his rights. Absolutely. And I depending on
let Tampa push that, would you give up Toronto's first for him?
Yeah. He was, I mean, yeah.
So you do that, it pushes the pick away, they pick this year, Tampa, and then they get a few years for, the older guys on that team to age out, move on, whatever it might be, next contract. And then they've got someone who's young and ready for the NHL as opposed to through college and older. At that point, he'd be what, 26?
Isaac Howard?
How old is Isaac Howard now?
22, I think.
Yeah, so he'd be 25 when maybe Tampa's ready to stop winning.
21, just turned 21.
Okay, yeah. So you're doing is sort of delaying this situation.
So if all it took,
instead of losing him for nothing,
sure. If all it took was what will be a late first round pick to get him, and he was a late first round pick of Tampa Bay. If I'm off the top of my head remembering correctly, he might be Tampa's last first round pick in the last couple of years.
They've given up a ton of them.
I'm looking it up right now. I don't think they have a pick in the first 4 rounds this year. Wow. So if you're the Lightning and the Blackhawks come up to you and say, hey, we know they have 1 second round pick and 1 4th round pick this year. I mean, if you go to the Lightning and say, like, we know this situation is not ideal. If you don't want to deal with him, here's a pick in the same range that you got him for. Yeah. And we'll take him off your hands. And you get, here's the rights to Philip Kurashev. But yeah, I would absolutely do that. And let's say you do make that kind of draft day trade. There's a chance Isaac Howard then goes, oh, yeah, I'll go to Chicago. I don't need to go to East Lansing again. I can go right to Chicago.
You're going to start the season in
Probably
Chicago.
Goes right to Chicago.
And then the Hawks have 1 fewer spot to fill free agent-wise, too.
Yeah. Yeah,
I think it makes a lot of sense.
I absolutely would be on board for a guy like that. Absolutely. Yeah. Part 3.
Right, the thrilling conclusion here.
Trilogy.
Why don't more drafted college players use this route and ride it out in college to become free agents and sign with teams that they prefer, give more money, playing time, play for a winner, etc.?
I think depends on where you go, because NILs have changed college sports.
Changed a lot.
You can make money in college now playing. So I think, as we've seen with the change in the CHL NCAA agreements, you've seen guys that would have maybe played in Canadian juniors now doing that and then going to college. I still think it's hard to have a guy say, well, I'm going to delay my NHL dream because I want to keep going to class.
You're one need to hit away from never having an NHL
right,
dream.
Yeah. So I think if the opportunity is there to get to the NHL, most guys are going to say, I'm going to take that chance. If, 2 years at Denver and then it's just like, contracts on the table. Yeah, I'm probably signing it. But I mean, everyone's different. Every situation is different. Like with Howard, he was approached to sign with Tampa, and he was just like, I'm going to wait it out. I'm going to wait you guys out and see what happens. So yeah, I mean, it has definitely changed. A few years ago, you might have just said, yeah, why don't guys stay in college? Because you got a couple $100,000 contract, possibly coming your way. You're going to jump at that.
Yeah. I probably got time for a couple more. Yeah.
This one from Deadhawk. We've talked about Bedard working on speed and Reichel getting some board work in this summer. What are the most pressing growth areas for guys like Frank, Vlasic, and whoever else do you want to talk about?
Oh, I like that question. I will say there were some moments this year where I thought there were some games where Vlasic didn't look like Vlasic. And I don't know if that was simply because he's been thrust into the number one defenseman role maybe a little more quickly than would be ideal. I think with Renzel's arrival and Levshinov's arrival, not that those guys move up to the number one defenseman, but I think it just takes a little bit away from Vlasic where he doesn't have to do everything. Like he's not in the power play and penalty kill and even strength. You know, I think for all these guys, you could say you're young, get a little stronger, work on your skating, work on your board, like all those sort of basic things. But I think that just a lot of it that these young guys need, it's just experience. There's nothing when I watch Frank Nazar on the ice be like, he's got to improve XYZ in terms of hands or speed or IQ or whatever. I think they're just going to learn over the course of their careers what works, what doesn't. Some guys like Reichel specifically identified board work as a flaw. Connor Bedard was a big topic on post games this year. Needs to add a step of speed. He acknowledged that and is going to do it. But you know, everyone can get a little bit faster. Everyone can get a little bit stronger. But in terms of, I think like if we want to talk about Levshinov, I think situational awareness is something that he needs, where when is the time to go? When is the time to stay? I will say he does seem to have a good idea for risk measurement, meaning, okay, the average defenseman probably shouldn't make this play, but I know if things go wrong, I'm going to be able to get back and stop the bad thing from happening. He does have that ability that a lot of guys don't. He's fast. He's got really good angles. So he kind of knows that and weighs that risk. But I think when to go, when to stay, when to keep it safe. And again, I think that all comes with experience.
Yeah, I think as with Reichel, he's had a few professional seasons now where he can kind of gauge his game and see where the deficiencies are and really go into an off season of like, oh, okay, this is the more pinpointed things I need to work on. The experiences, you can't simulate that in the off season.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, that's a big factor to it. Vlasic, I think, and he's talked about it too, was, like conditioning, like being able to get through the 82 game schedule, especially now, he's going to get a lot of minutes put on him. So being able to handle that through a full season, and I think that's going to be one thing. But that's something that just, again, it comes with experience of like being an NHL guy for a full season and, the travel and the toll on your body and all that stuff. So, yeah, I mean, those guys adding strength, adding weight, just, Sam Renzel is a guy that it's like, he just needs to get bigger. Yeah. And it's just going to come with some physical maturity. Yeah, I mean, Nazar, I would say, I don't know how you can simulate it, but he's just kind of got I would say I'd like to see him be able to kind of finish more of those rush chances that he creates. But again, like that just kind of comes with experience. And sometimes it's just, luck.
Yeah,
it just comes down to how, if you do or don't beat a goalie, and game situation. But it's something that I think a lot of the guys that are going to matter long term, it's just going to come with more time.
Yeah, that's it. We got time for one more?
Yeah, we can do one more.
All right, let's do one more.
All right, this one from Big Len. I note that most teams use an offensive-minded defenseman to QB the power play, although some opt for another forward. The Hawks post-Jones used Vlasic, defensive-minded defenseman there, but then shifted to Levshinov, offensive-minded defenseman for a while. What do you think is the most important attribute for a power play QB, and where does passing accuracy fit into this?
That's a really good question. I'll say this. I think Vlasic has more offense than he has shown. I think that he has committed to being a defensive defenseman for now, but I think those points will come for him. So I would not tag him as a specifically defensive defenseman only. For me, the most important thing for a power play quarterback, of course, is passing accuracy. Yeah. We talked about this with Sam Renzel. I think we actually made a short of it too. Was also he set up a dart for a one-timer, and it wasn't just that the pass was on the tape; it was a perfectly paced. So like that sort of feel for the required physics of hockey is a big thing, and keeping the puck in at the line is huge, and that's something that Seth Jones was really good at. Was a puck is about to escape, he could get to that wall, stop the puck from going out. The Dynasty Hawks were insane at that. Keith and Seabrook and Oduya and Hjalmarsson, it was like you could never clear the puck on those guys. That is such an underrated skill to have. And just as, Lucas Reichel is going to work on his board work, you could see defensemen working on that too, keeping the puck in at the line, learning those little tricks, learning those tactics to prevent it from leaving the zone, stick positioning, body positioning, arrival at the puck, angles, those sort of things. But to me, those are the biggest things. The ability to see a pass that maybe not there, risk management, and keeping the puck in at the line.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Decision-making and situational awareness are the two biggest things. Because no matter who it is, for most defensemen, you're going to have the ability to make a pass, see a shooting lane, and do all that. Jake McCabe had a great shot. He just never used it because it wasn't what he was going to be doing best.
Right.
But for a power play defenseman, you're up at the blue line, being able to read the game from that line in is a big thing, and mobility is great. But yeah, the situational awareness and the decision making being on point are probably the two biggest things.
Well, I think what you were talking about, assuming you win the faceoff in the offensive zone, also you've got to be able to break the puck out from behind the net, get things moving up the ice, be the slingshot coordinator.
No,
if that
no slingshot,
it's never going
coordinator.
away. They love
Just
it.
Take it.
Yourself. And I think that's something we saw with Korchinski a lot last year. Was stop, just carry it.
He did it in the. Oh no, Levshinov. Levshinov did it in the game in Rockford on Friday, and I just put my head on the table. It was like, come on, man, just skate with it.
But we saw Vlasic this year would be more selective on the slingshot. Like if it's there, take it.
He was more
carry it yourself because they're just waiting for you at that blue line. They're just waiting for you. So if you can get through them, get through them. So
like a gazelle out there,
and that all again comes with experience. You've got young guys, Korchinski, Levshinov, in their first games in the NHL, and are being told, this is our power play system. This is your job. They're going to do it 100% of the time because that's what they're being coached to do. Yeah. The instincts will come.
Absolutely.
So, all right, good stuff. I know we've got some leftovers for tomorrow, so we'll see what it brings. We got a lot. You're giving me the wide-eyed look.
Oh, yeah, that's a lot.
We had 15 Discords, so
damn.
Yeah,
all right,
we got
we'll
a lot.
Continue it tomorrow unless news happens.
Got a lot of multi-parters too.
Yeah, keep your eye on our social medias. We're staying abreast of all the coaching news, and as we get it, you'll get it. And I know we'll have something new to talk about tomorrow that we're not expecting. So make sure you join us.
The Giggities, I saw your comment. Anyways, it's addressed.
All right. We'll talk to you tomorrow too on the CHGO Blackhawks podcast.
We all silly like the mayor.